have just received the pack for my charity knit along. So I thought what I'd do is I'd go through what was in that little pack and talk about the project that I'm going to be making for the next month. You're also going to be hearing sounds today, sounds from my little boy, sounds from my dogs running around in the garden. It's a little bit chaotic, but we're going to get through it. It's going to be fine. There are 2 things in the envelope. You have your little pack here, which is your little instructional pack, and then you also have a little tote bag. So let's look at the tote bag. If you are someone that is into yarn, then tote bags are your friend, and I am going to be using this to put my projects in when I'm traveling around, because I'm going to be going all over the place with my little crochet granny squares, because the only way I'm going to get this done is if I'm crocheting on the train, if I'm crocheting in my lunch break, if I'm crocheting watching TV, if I'm crocheting right before I go to sleep. That is the only way I'm going to get this done. Now, the second thing that you get is this booklet, and this booklet tells you everything that you need to do your fundraising. So first page, it tells you each stage of how much you raise, what it goes towards, little QR code there so you can scan for more information. And then you also have this amazing calendar where you can write down what you've done each day. And then there's a little bit more about fundraising here, sort of top tips, saying a bit of a thank you. And then on the back, you've also got a bit of information about how to get in contact with them. So the reason why I'm doing this charity crochet along is because last December, we lost a really good friend called Danny. He'd been sick for quite a while. We thought he was cancer free, and then unfortunately it came back and it had got into his bones, and we're coming up to that 1 year anniversary, and suddenly this crops up on my social media, doing 30 minutes of knitting or yarn crafts, 30 minutes of crafts in aid of bone cancer research. And I felt like it was the universe's way of just kind of giving me a sign to honour his memory. So I'm doing this in aid of him, to remember my good friend Danny Wright. So I'm going to be linking in the notes of this video my Just Giving account. I'm also going to be doing daily updates on my Instagram, which is just at Stephanie Mitchard. So you can follow along and see. And if you want to join in yourself, do it 100%. It's not too late to join in with this crochet along. It's going to be running till mid-December, started in mid-October, running till mid-December, to give people that option if they wanted to join in. 30 minutes, 30 days to raise money for bone cancer research. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to be showing you the workings out in my book. The first thing I did was I made a plan of what I was going to be doing, and it shows you my ideas.
So this is my crochet book, and this is where I put all of my plans for things that I'm going to do. So I just write down the contents, like what I'm making. So I'm going to flip to this page. So these are my plans for my 30 mins for 30 days charity project. What I do in this book is I like to keep the labels, as it tells you obviously what it's made out of. It tells you the colours, it tells you the dye lots. Also, like, what I like to do is I like to have these little swatches of the wool as well. So a few weeks ago I wanted to make a jumper, and this is the colour palette, and I wanted a yellow that went with it and a black. So I just literally brought this to the yarn store with me, stuck in some little bits of wool there, and then just went round the wool shop just looking for different things that would like match this colour palette. So let's go back to this. So at the top I've got me 30 minutes granny square blanket. I've also wrote down the colours as well in that little order, that just in case they come out. I've also wrote down the hook that I'm using and the size of the hook that I'm using. So these are the choices of the hooks. So this is my Prim. I absolutely love these. I absolutely love these. I always say to people, when they're wanting to take up crochet, don't just go for those tiny little metal hooks. They are so uncomfortable. Well, I find them very uncomfortable in my hand. These just sit so nicely. They're so lightweight as well. This is my 5mm that I like working with. Now, this was just a standard little metal hook that I got from Hobbycraft. And what I've done is I've got some Fimo and I mix that Fimo in with a little bit of like the silver pigment that I had. And I had these really cute gemstones and I shoved those into the Fimo as well, kind of making like a chakra pattern. So that is my desired hook for when I'm working in a 5. This is just a bit of information about what I've first done. What I like to do when I was in university doing art history and fine art, what they wanted you to do is something called a personal journal, which is when you tracked your practice. So it's tracking all the different things that go with your practice, and this is what I'm applying to this. So the first step, what I decided to do was to make squares in 2 different sizes, which is here, to see which one I would prefer. So the first one that I made was in a size 5 because in my head I thought if I make it in a size 5, it's going to be bigger, it's going to get done quicker, because you can see with the 4, this is the 4mm here, this is significantly smaller to this. Now, I like the way this looks. I think it's very, very pretty. It's quite like sort of flimsy, so in terms of it being like a little wraparound blanket, it would have been quite nice. But when you compare it to this looks a lot neater. This looks a lot more put together. The density as well is a lot thicker. Obviously, you're using a smaller hook, so everything's kind of a bit more tighter. And I just think for the project, this is what I wanted to do. It's going to take longer, but that's okay. That is what we've committed to. So I'm just going to pop this to one side. So this is what I'm writing about here, that first step, which hook that I'm going to choose, just so if I ever want to go back and sort of relook at this project, or I want to recreate this project, this is what I have here. Now on this page, what I have is the workings out, how many squares am I going to need for the desired blanket size. Now this blanket is going to live on my bed. It's going to live on my bed, so I wanted it to be quite large. So I've put 80 inches by 64 inches. Each little square, there we are, so I've got 16 of those running across there and 20 running down there, which means that I would have to make 320 squares in the month. So I'm trying to think, so I obviously also want to do an edging. I broke the 30 days down into sets of 5, which would basically mean that I'd need to do 80 squares every 5 days, which is 20 squares a day. You can see that I wrote Jesus Christ there. The reality of this is I'm going to give it a good old college try and see if I can get this done by the 30th of November. Most likely, I'm probably going to be a few short and it might end up being a bit smaller than this. But we will see. We will see. We will attempt. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the wools that I've chosen. I decided to go with the Women's Institute premium yarn that is exclusive to Hobbycraft. I've worked with this yarn before. I've used their Aran weight. I've used the green to make hats. They have this really beautiful hunter's green. I just thought that these would be absolutely perfect. They were also on 3 for 2, which didn't exactly make me choose this, but I thought, you know what, every little helps. They're £3 each. You can see here's the colours. So this one is mustard. This one doesn't have a fancy name. It's just brown. Here is orange. And then here is the cream. Isn't that beautiful? They feel really nice to work up with as well. They feel really cozy when those stitches are coming together. It feels like super squishy. But they didn't have a red that I thought went with this palette. The vibe that I'm going for is like a 1970s granny square. The amount of TV shows that I watch and they have these amazing granny square throws on the back of the couches. That's what I want for my bedroom, because my bedroom is very sort of 1970s. This is the yarn that I chose to do that kind of like little pop of red, this really pretty rust. So these are £1.50 in Hobbycraft, everyday DK. What I would say is they're in the same price packet as these. The only, obviously, if you're going to buy 2 of them, they're £3. They were also on 3 for 2 as well. So I needed to buy, for every one of these, I needed to buy 2 of these. Now, What I would say with this is it feels a little thinner than these. It doesn't have that same cozy kind of feeling when you're working the wool up, and that it has a bit of a thinness to it. The first packet that I had, first skein that I had, and I took off the wrapper, the glue from the wrapper had gone through onto the wool, so it made me have to kind of like rip it apart. Yeah, it wasn't great, to be honest with you. But that kind of like made me feel a little bit like disappointed in it. But to be honest, I will use this again because the range of colours that they have in this is absolutely amazing. But if I was going to choose again, if I could, if they had this kind of colour in this, there wouldn't be any contest. So I'll show you how far I got along with yesterday, because this is day 2. So this is what I've made so far. Sorry, I'll move my cup of tea. This is what I've made so far. So each one of these, so what I'm doing is I'm joining them up. I've actually got another one here that I started making last night as well. I'm a weaving as you go person, and I know that loads of people don't weave in as you go, and it's a very laborious job. If I don't weave in as I go, it will never get done. It will never get done. So I am every single round, I weave in my ends, keeping it going as I'm going, because I just can't stand the thought of being at the end of the project and then having to sit there weaving all those ends in, especially for something of this size. There is no way I'm going to do that. I'm going to weave in as I go. So each one of these 4 sets of 4 take an hour. I crochet 2, and then I stitch it together for a 4, and then I join it on. I've managed to get done, 12 squares. 12 squares, not including the 2 little decider ones. So the way I'm going to do it is, as you can see, I'm going to replicate this first 4. And then this one. So this one's a little different. So this one, and then basically duplicate it going along. So that way I never have the same squares touching. When I get to the bottom here, I will just basically flip it, if that makes sense. So this square would be here, and this square will be here. And then when I get to the end of the project, I'm just gonna bulk it up with this creamy kind of colour and do like a bit of bordering. I might also throw in some pops of these colours as well as like single little swatches. I'm not too sure. I don't know what I'm gonna do.
So today is actually day 3. So I'm doing the intro to this video, showing you a little bit of stuff. Yesterday when I was filming this, it was day 2. And I had kind of got to a point where I was like, right, this is actually going to be a lot. 20 squares a day. I don't think it's manageable. I don't think it's manageable. So far, this is how far I have got. So here, it's probably not even going to show. This is as far as I've got. Okay, so I have got 12 squares going across. It's 24 squares. There's my little boy laughing. 24 squares. I know it's funny, Mummy can't crochet that fast. 24 squares. So what I'm going to do is, if I bring up my little trusty notepad, I have actually made some notes. So I don't know whether you'll be able to see this, but we're going to try. Here is the grid. And this red line in the center that I have drawn in, that is going to be the new plan. The outer part, that is going to be the edging, so I can do the edging around that inner part. So it's still going to have the same size overall. 16 down, 12 across, 192 squares. 992 divided by 4, 48 squares, which means that if I work it out every 5 days, is 9.6 squares a day. So if I aim for between 9 to 10 squares a day, which I think is doable. Each square takes me about 19 minutes to do. And then in terms of weaving in and stitching along as I go, it's probably going to take me up more towards the 25-minute mark. So each square takes between 20 to 25 minutes, including weaving in the ends. My original idea was I was going to consider actually putting this on eBay and auctioning it off for charity. But I think I'm just going to focus on just doing the crocheting along, the raising money for that part. So this blanket is going to live on my bed. I think I mentioned that earlier on. It's going to be living on my bed. My bedroom is kind of like really 70s. I've got this really crazy like floral wallpaper in these colours. So it's going to be a really beautiful addition. And I thought every single time I look at it or put it on the bed or get cozy with it, I can think about my amazing friend. So if you can donate anything, I would really, really appreciate it. Again, the link is going to be in the note part of this video. So please click. If you've enjoyed this video today, please remember to like and to subscribe to this channel. And thank you so much for making it to the end of this video and giving me your time. I will see you in the next video. Bye.